Hey, everybody, it's your host, Felipe, and you're listening to the Total Bases Podcast. And with me, as always, Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this evening?
Pretty good, pretty good. Mets suck, but we're surviving as best we can.
Mets suck. I know she left me roses.
There you go.
Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, we're doing Sean, we normally talk about the bad players, or not bad players, but unknown players. We usually talk about unknown players on this podcast, but today is going to be a little bit different. We're going to actually talk about established names, established superstars, because all-star voting is right around the corner. Oh, it's here already. I'm sorry, it's here already.
It's
the
here.
All-star game is right around the corner. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about that. Who you should be voting for based on what we're going to try doing something different this year. We're going to try a combination of calendar year statistics and 2023 statistics. We had the guys from Dong City, Baseball Cosmos, and Round Trippers podcast submit their ballots, so to speak, to see what would their ultimate baseball team would look like. So we didn't split it between American League and National League, but it should be an interesting exercise as we kind of switch gears a little bit and kind of celebrate some of the better players, or if not the better, some of the best players of the game right now, as opposed to looking for those diamonds in the rough, so to speak.
Especially those that had great years last year and have carried it over into this year so far. So I mean, because there are some guys that were great last year and so far this year not your best thing in the world. So
yeah, and the reason I'm doing calendar year, Sean, is because I feel like most people just vote for like the first 2 months of production, because the lineups, the all-stars are usually named around mid-June or so. So, and then second half comes and goes. Everybody forgets about it, and then we start to cycle again the following year, where people are focused on what has a player done in April and May. And it just made me wonder, well, what about the other months that aren't getting this player some credit? So I figured, let's just do that. And well, we're gonna find out really quick. Well, you'll see what I mean, because the results might astonish you. But before I get going here, I tagged my friend Eddie from California, as he was nice enough to find this T-shirt of Team Mexico. For those who can't see it, it's a Team Mexico T-shirt, and he shipped it to me. It just arrived today. It's really means a lot. He didn't have to do that. I didn't ask for him to do that. I wasn't in desperate need of more swag, but I do thank him for doing that, as the World Baseball Classic continues to be the event that keeps giving, and just kind of reminds us the special community we have here on Facebook with all these people. Again, it's just boggles my mind, Sean, that all of this started just because we all have a shared interest in baseball.
And we all wanted to know where Henry was.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's old baseball life lore. There for those.
For the love of Pete, for the love of baseball. Anyway, so yeah, it's just kind of weird. Not weird. It never ceases to amaze me how the little things, right? It's all about the little things. So thank you, Eddie, for sending me the T-shirt. I think it's a nice, gorgeous T-shirt you got me, and I'll be wearing it liberally throughout the summer. So thank you for that. Alrighty then.
Beware of choking while you wear it, because I know Team Mexico and Giovanni Gallegos.
That was a Giovanni Gallegos thing, all right?
Wasn't the Team Mexico thing?
No, man, we had that game. We had our best relief pitcher, and they had their best hitters out there. So I thought that pitching beats hitting all the time, but I guess not. That ended up being a lie. So no, never again. Just, good hitters always find a way to smash and mash. Anyway, I think the trick of this exercise was that you were going to talk about some players and I was going to talk about some players. So let's go hitter by 3 hitters, 2 starting pitchers, and 1 relief pitcher. And then we can quickly go through our teams. But let's start. Who's your first hitter that you want to talk to? Your first position player?
Well, when I picked my lineup, do you want to post up the spreadsheet?
Yeah, I was. Let me save it. Let me save it.
Okay, hold back. Okay, yeah. So when me and you, when we picked out our lineups, we did for the entire calendar year. going back to last June. And I think the fun part of that exercise is not only guys that maybe had better years than you thought, but like at the beginning of the year, last year started off very poorly. And you're kind of like, okay, maybe, and then you kind of forget how good they were the rest of the year. You see that a lot of times after big contracts, Francisco Lindor. But the one guy I really wanted to focus on, who I've never been a huge believer in, but he's kind of turning me into one, Marcus Semien. Both him and Corey Seager for last year obviously signed those giant free agent deals and struggled for the first 2 months, that I think most people forget how good they were the rest of the year. And of course, Marcus Semien and Seager, ever since then, all they've done is keep hitting. And Marcus Semien's been one of the most valuable players in baseball. Fifth in Fangraphs WAR from June 1st last year to June 1st this year. 33 home runs, 26 steals. I mean, just doing everything, playing good defense, being a good base runner. Really kind of the very boring 5-tool package, but really shocking to see him that high up on that list where he was. All because, I mean, you looked at what he did the first 2 months last year, and he was very, very bad. But he turned it around, and he's kept it going since, even into this year, with the Rangers being really like the best team in baseball so far this season.
Yeah,
aside from the Rays, maybe, but they've both been insane.
Yeah, I just remember Marcus Semien had was just a kind of an afterthought with the White Sox a long time ago, and then he got traded. I believe he was part of the Jeff Samardzija deal, and it, it just whatever. It was, who cares? It's Marcus Semien. The A's messed up, and he ended up being a pretty darn good player all those years with Oakland and Toronto, and now with the Texas Rangers. Good power speed combination. So yeah, it's hard to pick any. I mean, Jose Altuve might be close, but I think the injuries are starting to rack up, and he loses a lot of accumulated stats and productivity points. But Semien is solid as a rock at a traditionally weak hitting position, so that's a really good choice. Actually, that seems to be everybody's choice. I think a lot of
he was
folks,
almost the unanimous. Luis Arraez, Austin picked Luis Arraez, who would have been my honorable mention, just because we've always been Luis Arraez fans here on the show, and of course he's closing in on 400 this year for the first 2 months or so.
All right, let's go to my guy Bo Bichette, who shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays. That's been Marcus Semien's old double play partner up in Toronto, and I've liked this kid for a long time. He comes with a name pedigree, the namesake, and I think that he's lived up to the hype. And over the past calendar year, he has proven to be very close to the best shortstop in all of baseball. I know defensively there's a lot to be desired, but he is just a pesky hitter. Very exciting player, good power speed combination. Although the stolen bases aren't, they're not going to shatter any speed records, but he'll, in the past calendar year, he has had 11 stolen bases to go with 29 home runs, 379 weighted on base average. And he's just a great player to watch, fun player. I can't say enough about the guy. He's just when I think about excitement and I think about kind of like a throwback, because the guy, he's a little bit on the impatient side based on the lack of walks. But I think that's part of the allure. That's what makes him exciting. But he's not, he's not Javier Baez, Tim Anderson, impatient up at the plate either.
And he makes more contact.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So he does have the skill set to make enough contact where it matters and it counts. And it's not weak contact. It's solid contact. I mean, I can't say enough about the guy. And I see that you also picked Bo Bichette to be your shortstop.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with the decision, but it's one of those. I just saw him play. The Mets got swept by Bo Bichette's Blue Jays, and like I said, the power is something he didn't really show in that series. I know he has it, but the thing that impressed me the most is, and it's evident if you look at his spray chart and stuff like this so far this year, is how much he's just taking what's thrown to him. He has so many base hits to the opposite field. I mean, it's people are trying to not pitch into his nitro zone, get turned and burned on. And if they throw it away, he's just dunking it into right field. and the SNY broadcast had said something. I'm trying to pull up exactly what it was, but it was just like compared to the other hits to the opposite field, he had like 14 more than any other hitter in baseball. And he's also, I mean, he's leading the league in American League. I think he's tied or close to being tied with Acuna in hits. But he had like so many more hits to the opposite field than any other hitter in baseball. Really smart approach, just taking what's given to him. And like you said, defense, obviously much to be desired. But when you look at this list of in the last calendar year, the top shortstop, Dansby Swanson is number one on the list, mainly in part to just great defense.
Yeah.
I think I speak for both of us. We've never really loved the Swanson bat profile.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not that much different from Bo Bichette's, just Bo Bichette's is about 2 levels higher in terms of that style of hitting.
Right.
It's just with guys like Francisco Lindor getting off to really slow starts this year, Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts has been kind of middle. Willie Adames has been hurt. Shortstop's looking like I feel like it used to be there was like 5 elite guys all at the top and then a bunch of mid. And this year it's like with some of those elite guys dropping down, the Lindors, Turners, Correas, it's like leveling out the position. And I feel like there's not as much elite upside at the position right now. But like that was the one I really had a hard time picking just because of how the traditional elite players of shortstop, the Lindors and Turners, have started this year so poorly. So it really has brought some parity to the position.
All right. So with that being said, let's see what else you got for me. So far Bichette, so far Semien. We got 2 more hitters to go. Who's your next guy?
Right here. Let me pull it up. I was gonna pick Trout just because I think I was the only one except Melvin.
Yeah.
Everybody else did not include Mike Trout as one of their 3 hitters. And it's just mind-boggling to me. It's like so easy for us now to overlook it. We can say he's injured, he doesn't play as much. You know, there's other really good options. And it's like Mike Trout is still Mike Trout, guys. I mean, it's not like the 190, 200 WRC plus that Aaron Judge is putting up or that Mike Trout used to put up. But from June 1st last year, June 1st this year, 551 plate appearances, 40 home runs, 394 WOBA, 157 WRC plus, and 6th in Fangraphs WAR. I almost, just to troll the group a little bit, 5th on that list is Brandon Nimmo. And I almost included Brandon Nimmo because nobody you would expect in that time period to be like, oh, if you name the top 5 or even 10 most valuable outfielders, most fans aren't going to say Brandon Nimmo's in that list, but he is right there. If you include Yordan Alvarez, he's 5th. If you look as Alvarez is more of a pure DH, that moves everybody up a spot. So, but yeah, Mike Trout, I thought is just got slept on these lists. I mean, he's still Mike Trout. He doesn't run as much, but it's Mike freaking Trout, people. Like, let's not stop appreciating the greatness or just, I know there's other big names and Mike Trout really doesn't go out there to try and put his name out there, but it's like, guys, he's still doing his thing.
Yeah, I think the big issue for a lot of folks would have been that he got hurt.
Yeah. Which makes it even kind of more remarkable to me because everybody else in the top 10 has at least 138 games. He's at 128. J-Rod's at 138. And Michael Harris was at 144. But it's like even with 100 less at bats than everybody else except Michael Harris. And he's 5th or 6th on the list. I thought that was impressive.
All right, let's see here. I'm going to reveal the first name. Melvin, you just mentioned Melvin.
Yeah.
And Melvin also went calendar year, so that's kind of a bad example there to show the similarities between calendar year versus 2023. But I just kind of opened it up randomly because I had the names hidden. But yeah, it's basically, I mean, pretty damn identical. And I was going to pick out a name from his list, but I'll just go ahead and talk about Austin Riley because it's so identical. There's really not too much differentiation. between who we picked and what other guys picked. I mean, it's pretty darn unanimous, but Austin Riley is my third baseman. And I think I was the only one who picked Austin Riley for this exercise.
Yeah.
And I looked at the numbers, and I mean, they're pretty darn astonishing when you looked at it. I mean, yeah, I could have easily voted for Nolan Arenado, and Matt Chapman's having a bounce back year. His strikeout rate is still way too high. Matt Chapman is at 27.4%. And then of course, everybody, a lot of folks pick Yandy Diaz. But I think it's Austin Riley's time to get some shine here. He has the power. He has this is not the sheet that I like to use here, but it's fine. We'll manage. Comes with a 365 weighted on base percentage, respectable 4.7 wins above replacement. And I think he's younger than a lot of the guys I just mentioned. Last I checked, again, I'm using the wrong report here compared to what I was using to compile this list.
Yeah.
But I think when we did our end of year stuff from last year, Austin Riley's name showed up like to dominate at that third base position. And I think people are kind of forgetting how awesome he was last year. And I think that needs to be rewarded for this year, even though I'm not sure what his numbers are for this season.
They're down. That was, he would have been, I basically had it down if we had just done, well, no, that doesn't make sense. But it was basically like him, Yandy, and Arenado.
Mhm.
But I looked at those three, and Yandy was the only one that's really kept it up so far this year. Riley, who was a guy I was always like afraid of in terms of the swing and miss, and he seemed to be leveraged all for power. Yeah, he's posting the highest strikeout percentage of his career since his rookie season so far this year. He's swinging less, and he's making far less contact inside of the zone. He's still like hitting the piss out of the ball, don't get me wrong, but it's just a profile that always seems to be, despite how consistent he was 21 and 22, that this year things have maybe taken a little bit of a step back, still hitting for some power. I mean, on pace for like 30-ish, 28 home runs, nothing to sneeze at, but not kind of that elite level that he was at last year. So that was why I didn't pick him, but he was definitely in that conversation.
Yeah, and I could have made a case to not go with him and go with everybody else. But like I said, if I'm going to do a calendar year exercise, I can't ignore what Riley did. And Nolan Arenado just was like, that seems to be like the low-hanging fruit, obvious choice answer. And he too is struggling this year, last I checked.
Yeah,
So,
and then that was the thing, was both of them compared to Yandy, who's, just even gotten better from last year. He was great last year, and this year he's just gotten even better. But yeah, Arenado and Riley taking kind of steps back. That dropped them out of the conversation for me.
all right, so now I got the correct report up and running on the other screen here. Riley's still in the top 5 among third basemen. He, like I said, he is the youngest of the group, so going with the upside there. Oh, okay, so since I guess there's a difference between calendar year and then June 1st of 2022, which that was what the original report, that's how I had it when I was compiling this list.
Yeah.
So that makes a world of difference there too.
Yes.
But still, there's a lot to like. The power is definitely there. Where's the ISO of 235, which that I'm not even gonna, without even like sorting it, I think that's higher than any third baseman on this list.
Yeah, the next closest, or the next,
Max Muncy's
number one. Muncy's higher, and then he's in like a virtual tie with Brandon Drury. But yeah, Muncy's kind of a different type of hitter, so I'd expect him to have the higher ISO.
But you know what?
Still lots of power.
It's an interesting, because it's interesting because Muncy, that's big time power, but it comes with a very low batting average since June 1st of last year. Brandon Drury comes with a respectable batting average, but awful on base percentage. Patrick Wisdom comes with a 34% strikeout rate. So Riley comes with the power and enough contact skills where he's not like an all or nothing hitter. So that's another thing to like about him. And like I said, I think it's something that we need to reward, we can't forget about his good season last
Oh
year.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's why I picked Austin Riley, and it's kind of like everybody keeps talking about, oh, Austin Riley, his time is gonna come, his time is gonna come. Why not now? Let's just get ready for the Austin Riley era at third base while we have it going. All right, so that is 2 players down. We got 1 more position player to go. Who are you going to go with?
Let's see, for position player. I'll go with the guy who was almost near unanimous amongst all of our submissions. Only 2 dissenters amongst the group, and that was Adley Rutschman for catcher. I think most people can guess who the other 2 voted for. That would be Sean Murphy. You really couldn't go wrong at this position unless you picked somebody that was not Adley Rutschman or Sean Murphy.
But he
Both
clearly was the obvious choice here.
they were actually pretty close. I'm trying to pull it up.
No, you're right. They were pretty
yeah.
close, but I mean, he's still kind of, no matter what. I mean, when I was doing it, no matter what stat I could do or wanted to do, I mean, Rutschman had it on offense, had it on defense, and I think even the F4 was.
They're near identical.
Okay.
Adley Rutschman's F4 7.0 or 7. Why did I say? Sean Murphy 6.9. Nice. And then when you look at the actual counting stats, Rutschman 21 home runs, Murphy 24. RBIs were like 70 and 82 for Rutschman and Murphy, respectively. Both batted in the 270s. Both had on bases 370 plus. And Murphy had a slight edge in slugging in the last calendar year. WOBA 368 versus 370. So really, it was kind of just pick your poison. And of course, JT Realmuto could be in this conversation as well with the year he had last year. But like Arenado and Austin Riley, he's started off pretty slowly this year. So that took him out of the running. But one guy that we're sleeping on here, and I'm surprised I didn't pick him just to be the dissenter like I always am. Will Smith easily could be in this conversation. Obviously not the defensive prowess that Adley and Sean Murphy have, but offensively they're all 141, 142, 143 WRC plus. So couldn't go wrong with that. And he has hit more home runs, more runs and RBIs as well for Will Smith. But yeah, between those 2, those were the main picks. Maybe I should have picked Will Smith just to mess things up a little bit.
Man, get jiggy with it next time.
Turn this show into the Wild Wild West.
Oh, did not expect that. You
That's the reference. That's the reference.
All right. Well, where's the All-Star game this year anyway?
Seattle.
It's not in Miami?
No, Seattle. I heard that on like one of the MLB TV commercials, and I was like, what? How am I just now hearing about this? Because wasn't this the one that was supposed to be in Atlanta, I think?
No, that was the Colorado one was supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, it was going to be in Atlanta, and then they did a last minute change.
I thought it was a last minute change, but then when I heard it was in Seattle, I was like, I don't remember any hubbub over this. But I was it actually like in the future that they had picked it? But no, okay,
no,
that makes sense. It was that same year that they moved it. Okay,
yeah. I opened up. You mentioned Sean Murphy, Austin. He did pick him as a catcher. He also picked Luis Arias. I know he's a big fan of Luis Arias as well. Let's pick one of his guys. And let's go with Captain Mexico, Randy Arozarena, who, as you know, Sean, he's on my the podcast league team. He's on my podcast league team.
Yes.
And so far he's kind of because last year he got off to a bad start, like a really god awful start. And he didn't turn things around until sometime in late June, July. After it's definitely in the second half, he just was lights out. And I know this because I had him on my points league last year. Remember, this is the points league where I ended up getting Yordan Alvarez, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and then Randy Arozarena was like my 4th best outfielder. But he was playing at such a high caliber that I think that's part of the reason why, even though I wanted to tank last year and I wanted to lose, I couldn't lose because Arozarena was hitting the crap out of the ball very late in the year. And of course, but nobody wants to deal with that. You know why? Well, he got off to such a slow start. How do we know this is the real him? We always knew that was the real him, right? Whatever we saw in the second half, that was the real him. And unfortunately, outfield is stacked I couldn't put him on my team. But
Outfield is stacked. Like that's the wild thing that even
Why
why I
honestly.
wanted to include Nemo just for gags. But it's like he was fifth. I could even say that. And then you see like the guys that are all like 6 through like 12. I think a Rosarena is like 10th or 11th. Soto's right around that range. I'm just
Yeah.
like, holy hell, outfield is loaded.
Yeah, well, we talked about all the time. Like we don't this past year, and even you for the last couple of seasons or so, during draft time for fantasy baseball, you always advise just don't get too many outfielders early because there's going to be plenty in the latter
Yeah, I
stages
mean,
of the draft.
especially like if you look at it this year, and it's the position that's most likely to have somebody come out of left field, unintended.
Literally.
And yeah, I mean, literally, it's just one of those. You can find a guy that's like a first through fourth round talent in the outfield, usually past around like 15. And it's like this year, that guy's Josh Lowe. And on one of my more successful fantasy teams this year, it's in that draft and hold league. I kind of, I don't want to say got lucky because I did wait on these guys because I liked all of them, but it was like the Nolan Gormans, the Josh Lowe's, and Josh Lowe's this year is just so good in terms of fantasy for power, speed, and I don't have any of Randy Rosarena, and I'm kind of kicking myself now because I'm looking at he's hitting the ball harder than he ever has in his major league career. 93.2 average EV. Just whew. And he's like he hasn't lost any contact. It's virtually the same as it was last year. 0.3% difference. 389 WOBA, highest walk rate. Walk rate's 3.5, 4% higher, or 4 percentage points higher than it ever has been, leading to a 394 on base. Like that's insane. If I thought that was coming from Randy Rosarena, I would have drafted him in a lot more spots, but I was always kind of worried that he was more of the
Well, here's another thing about Rosarena. Since June 1st of 2022, 27 home runs, 32 stolen bases. So you're getting the best of both worlds. Even if you deduct them points for the caught stealing, that's still what is that, 20? Yep, that's 20, right? Can I do math? Yeah, that's 20.
I was gonna say I do want to say he is like one of the league leaders in caught stealings, but I mean you can't in fantasy traditional roto, like you take 31 stolen bases, like that's more than anyone not named like Ronald Acuna Jr.
But that's part of the exercise, right? Like we
Yeah.
want to make sure we reward those guys who got for this year, who got off to a slow start last year and didn't get any recognition for. And then what happens in July, August, September, October when a Rosarena, turn things around? Well, let's reward him for it by looking at a calendar year statistic. And I think that's what Austin, good job by Austin by doing that. Although ironically enough, he was only looking at 2023 and he ended up voting for a guy that would have flourished if we would have looked at a lot of if we would have combined his second half numbers with the 2023 numbers. Anyway,
his WRC plus went up like 20, 25 points from the first half to the second half last year.
And I got caught up in the talk here that I forgot to check the comments, so I'm gonna quickly go through them. Jacob says that we are horrible. I don't know. Is he talking about the Mets?
Oh yeah, probably.
Henry, our fearless leader. Well, we're down to 2 people who I have not opened up the position players. I might just do that right now. But he's a big Nolan Arenado fan, and he says that Austin Riley definitely is better than Nolan Arenado. Let that simmer.
Yeah, I'm gonna let that simmer for a while because me and Henry over the years have had lots of conversations about Nolan Arenado, to say the least.
So I just got Henry's name, and let's see, is there any difference? Let's see, everybody pretty much has Atley right. So it looks like
he went Wander Franco at shortstop, and that was one that really made me kick myself because if you look at the last calendar year and only did like the generic qualified hitters, Franco doesn't pop up because he was hurt last year. And if not for that, let me see where he ranks in terms of WAR. But I was kind of kicking myself because I was like, oh damn, I didn't even think about including him at that position. But he comes in at 11th in 93 games. He's been worth 4.1 WAR in 93 games. So that's like comes out to about a 6 WAR pace. So yeah, definitely I should have realized that, But I really, that was my favorite pick by Henry, and I totally agree with it.
So Wander Franco at shortstop so far. Everybody on this list, because we're still missing Vince. I'm gonna save it for last here. Everybody else has Bo Bichette. Henry went with Wander Franco, Matt Chapman at third base, along with him and Austin. Again, those guys did the 2023 stats as opposed to the calendar year, and there's a slight difference right there. But so far, it's pretty similar. Pretty similar if you do the calendar year versus the 2023. Julio Rodriguez for Henry, although he's off to a slow start this year, but we know what although he was kind of winding down late last year.
He tailed off late last year in the last 2 months or so, and a lot of people kind of really didn't notice it. But yeah, that was one guy. He was going, late first round this year, early second. I want to know part of Julio Rodriguez, and it's like he's the type of guy that I traditionally shy away from. Yeah. So,
well, I picked him in the first round of the podcast league, and my offense is one of the worst in the league. I wonder why. I actually had to bench him.
I didn't warn you.
Well, it was either him or Mike Trout, and I don't know. Mike Trout at that time with the bad back and the bad shin, the bad hamstring, the bad this.
Still would have picked Mike Trout.
I don't know. Younger is always better in my book, but yeah, I actually had to bench J-Rod for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's a weekly league. I had to bench him because he was doing nothing. He was actually costing me wins. And sure enough, he turned things around and proving that he's one of the more explosive players, one of the more intriguing young players for Major League Baseball's future. So moving on, Henry also picked Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Jordan Alvarez, like a lot of us. Going over to Austin's team, he got Ronald Acuna Jr., and let's see, is there any difference on Melvin's team? No, that's pretty chalk. Shohei Ohtani is a lot of our utility guys, and let's narrow this down a little bit. You guys can start seeing the starting pitchers. There's Vince, column D. Vince, of course he's column D, because why not? Of course he's column D. Dong City once a month at this point, right? Henry,
he's the fifth column.
Oh God, Henry, let us know when Dong City's back on. Save us from this dong-induced, never-ending conversation between Sean and I. Vince, he said he was going 2023, and he got Sean Murphy, Freddie Freeman, Marcus Semien, Wander Franco. Yeah, tell me you guys do a podcast together without telling me you guys do a podcast together. Henry and Vince are basically identical infield. No, they are identical. Sorry, except for the catcher. You get to the outfield. Vince is riding that Mr. Mexico train ride with Randy Arozarena. Luis Robert was a surprise here, but I don't know, man. I went with it, but I have Luis Robert on my fantasy team. I'm not happy with his performance. As a White Sox fan, never mind the hat that I'm wearing today, I'm not happy with him either as a White Sox fan. So I think this is Vince's way of saying that he wants him on the Yankees. Speaking of Yankees, of course, he went with Aaron Judge. And of course, there cannot be a Vince lineup without picking non-Shohei Ohtani or even Jordan Alvarez. He went with JD Martinez.
I'm just noticing. Did he pick him as a pitcher?
JD Martinez? We're gonna find out.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
But let me see. I think I still have one more position player, but I think we did a good job of. I guess Jordan Alvarez would be my other guy. Jordan Alvarez, the best left-handed hitter in all of baseball. There, I said what I said. I can't be convinced otherwise. He's basically the second. He would be the best hitter in all of baseball if it wasn't for this one guy named Aaron Judge.
Yep.
Statistically speaking, of course.
No.
But yeah, Jordan Alvarez, he might be a very fearsome hitter to deal with in the future.
The one thing before we go to the pitchers, if you don't mind scrolling back up, I want to talk about this discussion at first base because I'm not really sure how I feel about it. And like even Yandy Diaz, like if I wanted to, I could have thrown Yandy Diaz at first and picked like Austin Riley or somebody like that at third. But the Freeman, Goldschmidt, even Yandy gets thrown in there. That trio is so close over the last calendar year. It's absolutely insane. And I'm guessing it's mainly from defense and like 60 more plate appearances. I don't know how Freddie has 60 more plate appearances than, I mean, it's a difference of 8 games, I guess. But like Freeman is at an 8 WAR from June 1st to June 1st. Goldschmidt was at 6.5. They're near identical in WOBA, WRC plus. Freeman's better defender, but at first base, like I guess Freeman's been a really good base runner, surprisingly. 17 steals in the last
Wow.
calendar year. Yeah. And he's already got like 8 this year. So he's definitely swiping them when he gets a chance. When it's just that old white guy playing first base. He got on. Don't pay any attention to him. Zoom. There goes
I
Freddie
would have
Freeman.
never guessed that I would have thought Goldschmidt would still have
Yeah, Goldschmidt has 11. Goldschmidt has 11. Like he's still running. But
dude. Here's a name for you.
Freeman had 13 in total last year, and he already has 8 this year.
Here's a name for you with double-digit steals since June 1st of last year. Josh Naylor with 10 stolen bases.
That's surprising.
No, that's why I picked him in the podcast league. He sucked,
wild.
but I picked him up again. So we'll see if I can get some of those cheap steals out of a corner infielder.
But it was like the first base. Like I know you picked Freddie,
yeah,
and I picked Freddie,
yeah.
But it's like, is there something deeper here? I mean, Goldschmidt has hit for more home runs. Like I just don't know how easy of a call it is for it to be 4-5. We all pick Freeman, and it's like there's no wrong answer, but.
Well, I think the WAR, especially from Fangraphs, I think that was a decision maker for a lot of us. Freddie Freeman 7.7 versus 6.7 for Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're right. I mean, ops 946 for Freeman, 934 for Goldschmidt. A lot of even the advanced stats, it has it pretty darn close.
I mean, in the last calendar year, he's hit 340. So, like, I guess that makes me feel a little bit better. On base over 400. It's just like.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I feel like we're like, I don't want to say disrespecting Goldschmidt, but it's just like, I thought it was so weird because it's like Goldschmidt's been really freaking good, and Freddie Freeman's just like still kind of runs the board.
It might be just a change of the guard. Goldschmidt is 30. He shows up at age 35. He might be 36 this year.
I mean, Freeman's what, 34?
33, 34 around there. So it's just, you know how the years go in Major League Baseball. 1 year equals like 20 years sometimes. All right, let's go to the pitchers. As you guys can see, it's pretty.
Goodness, I feel dumb.
Sean
I don't have Spencer Strider. You're the only one that has Spencer Strider, so I think we all missed him based on qualifications on qualified players. Yeah,
if you do it this year or last year, I mean, it's Spencer Strider is one of the better players, regardless, right?
Yeah, from June 1st of last year to June 1st this year.
Am I missing something?
He's not he's not qualified for innings based on innings. So I think that's how it goes.
No, well,
but yeah, he definitely should be on the list.
Bro, I gotcha.
I'm a dummy.
Felipe plays by his own rules. Minimum 110 innings pitch. Strider qualifies. You never know. Actually, let me get to some of these comments, Sean, really quick. I got one from a Mets fan named Chad. I'm gonna assume he's a Mets fan.
Chad.
But let's use my I'm gonna use my John Madden voice because I like my John Madden voice.
God. Get the telestrator out.
Well, let's see what happens here. But just like every other Mets fan, the beginning of the season is so much hype. It reminds me of the Major League movie with all the hype and no turnaround, Jack. Jack. And then which Jacob goes, oh, you mean like every other team? So it's when did the Mets have the monopoly?
We did not have
fan base.
We did not have the early season hype that we've had before, even last year.
It was pretty hyped up this year.
Well, no, I'm talking about like early season success, like after the first month when everyone's beating their chest. Like the Mets weren't beating their chest after April. Like that's not really how it was going.
Well, look at the Rays, man. I mean, our guy Angel Morales, the other Morales in my life. He made sure to thump his chest any chance he could get because he knows that glass slipper is going to fall off. But the Rays are looking pretty darn good this year. No. But as Angel was reminded, well, you guys don't play anybody. It's a soft schedule.
Oh God.
So I got Spencer Strider, Kevin Gossman. Of course, he's going to be on my team. Kevin Gossman shows up on. Oh, and this is the one I wanted to talk about. Kevin Gossman shows up on Henry's team. Remember a couple years ago when I drafted Kevin Gossman in our baseball life draft, and everybody made fun of me, and he was the biggest culprit of them all. Now look at him.
Felipe
2 or 3 years later, finally getting on the bandwagon after I told him to hop on like well before it was a cool thing to do. So yeah, victory lap time. So yeah, I see Kevin Gossman's name showing up a lot, so that's pretty cool to see. You know what though, the doubt I had in him going to Toronto, that turned out to be false. It doesn't matter where he pitches. It turned out that he's a pretty darn good pitcher, even though all the warning signs were there.
Yeah,
AL East.
we were very cautious over it.
What was it that he only has 2 pitches and mainly the splitter? But what about the secondary, tertiary pitches? How is he going to keep batters off balance? Just by throwing splitters every day, all day, every day. No biggie. Another name that shows up. Well, first of all, let's go to Melvin's pick, Justin Steele. That's a homer pick.
Yeah,
I don't care what he's doing. That's a
I
homer
was
pick.
I chuckled a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it.
Yeah, that's awful. Melvin, do better.
Just do better.
And of course, I cannot hate on the Framber Valdez, where him and Melvin and I match. I was the only one who did not pick Garrett Cole, but you know why I didn't pick Garrett Cole? Because I had to make room for Spencer Strider.
Yeah. If I had to pick Strider, I probably would have dropped Wheeler or Cole. I kind of have them right in the same boat. They're 2 peas in a pod at this point, in my opinion. So still really good, but it's definitely changing the guard time.
So let's go over to Austin's team. He went with the 2023 route, and he was the only one who picked Nate Eovaldi. A little bit of a tidbit here. Nate Eovaldi is on Austin's team in the Mardi Gras League. So a little bit.
He's having a great year, so you would know.
A little bit of a fantasy appreciation pick there by Austin, and I can vouch for it, but I don't know if he's top 5 good. In my book. I forgot to read out the other comment from Henry. Adley Rutschman, also more impressive doing it so early in his career. Because remember, Sean, we always used to warn people about stay away from the young catchers. Every once in a while, one just shows up, but we hear about catchers catching prospects left and right. This is it right here. This is the guy. You can't miss. He can't miss. Remember, Josh Phelps, Toby Hall,
Matt Wieters.
Matt Wieters. That was my guy, man.
And you see, that was the thing, was like deep down.
Yeah,
I knew Adley Rutschman was really good. I mean, you could see it. It's just so apparent.
Yeah.
But deeper down, I had this unrooted fear that Adley Rutschman was just Matt Wieters 2.0. Same team. They were both switch hitters. I was so freaking worried. But I put on the brave face because I was all aboard. I love Adley. But I was just like, deep down, I was like, oh God, this is Matt Wieters all over again.
No, you know what Rutschman reminds me of? When all the hype that surrounded him, because we hear hype about catching prospects all the time, and we're basically at a point in our lives where we're kind of not immune, but jaded by it. That's a better word, jaded by it. Rutschman did kind of move the needle a little bit with me, because it reminded me a lot about Buster Posey when he was coming up with the Giants. It's a similar situation.
Once in about every 10 years it happens.
Every 10 years, Yadier Molina, Buster Posey, Adley Rutschman, and then before that, Ivan Rodriguez.
You see, I'm not sure I'd put. When did Pudge debut? Early 90s, mid 90s,
late 80s, early 90s. I mean, if you want to go that far, some people would say, well, no, Benito Santiago would be the better example, but Santiago, Santiago, with the help of drugs, he was able to be relevant in the early 2000s. There, I said it.
It's definitely like that. That every 10 years, it's just the generational catcher. And like I said, I would not. Granted, Adley's only played 2 years, so I'm not going to say Adley's better than Yachty. That's dumb. But it was like, that's the thing when people try to compare. To me, going off on a tangent here, an anti-Yadier Molina tangent, definitely not fueled by any sort of childhood trauma related to the 2006 playoffs.
So we got an interesting chat going here. There's a back and forth between Chad and Jacob. Apparently, Chad is a Braves fan, so I do apologize.
That makes sense. That makes
lumping
sense.
Him in there. Jacob mentioned Bryce Harper, as a utility player or as a feared hitter, left-handed hitter. Oh yeah, that would make sense.
I'm still picky or not.
Henry, Henry says after he finished his list, he realized that Ohtani was left off, and I thought I'd be the only one omitting him.
Yeah, I'm pissed that there's one other person that has Ohtani in their starting pitching staff. No, I think I was the only one.
I was close.
Yeah, I was going to put him had him as util, but no, I'm sorry. Ohtani, great hitter. He's a better pitcher, people. He's a better pitcher. He's a top 5 pitcher. I don't know what he's doing. Vince, obviously not. Vince put freaking Bryce Elder on the list over Shohei Ohtani.
I'm not one to question Vince on anything anymore at this point. It's just not worth it. But when I saw Bryce Elder, and you know what, that just screams of. I watched him.
I don't want to pick Ohtani.
No. It just shows that to me, it's always like I watched him pitch a couple of games locally here, and I was impressed because I test, right? So,
Yeah.
but hey, whatever. It's yeah, or who knows? Maybe Vince Winston taking this seriously, but column D. That he'll always have column D here. Marcus. He also picked Marcus Stroman, which is I think he just did that to piss you off. I'm beginning to think he did this to piss you off.
Probably.
But then he picked Shane McClanahan, who we both love.
Yeah. McClanahan was a guy that I was really trying to fit on my list, but I was like, I really wanted to give the edge to guys like Wheeler and Cole, who have kind of more of the every fifth day, the bolt guys. So yeah, that was it. He was probably number 6 on my list, McClanahan.
And then he also picked former Yankee legend Sonny Gray, which is still my favorite. My favorite baseball name with a weather report. What's today? It's going to be sunny with gray skies. And then of course he has to pick Garrett Cole because Yankee bias. Yeah, there I said
of course.
it.
There
Of
you
course. Sandy Alcantara. Henry went with Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara is not having. Is he having? I don't even know. I just know
go.
that
Yeah,
I did not
it's
want
like
any,
it's like a 4 ERA season right now.
I did not want any part of
Actually,
this
over
season.
over 5, but I think he'll be fine. I'm not really too worried about him. It's just, yeah, if you're basing it on 2023, should not be on the list.
Henry was with Aaron Nola. He said that that's future Yankee pitcher Aaron Nola. We'll see about that.
Nola's gotten off to a slow start. 4.7 ERA.
Yeah,
This
that's
year
I asked him. Listen, bro. I asked him, hey, are you doing 2023 numbers or calendar year? He didn't respond. So this is starting to look more like calendar year rotation. Because Aaron Nola, I also have him based on
Yeah,
the last.
because from 6-1 to from June 1st last year, June 1st this year, he leads that group in WAR.
By the way, since June 1st, Spencer Strider, 172 innings pitched as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I saw he was, I think, on at like 160 or something for me, 161 or something like that.
Oh, okay,
because I think I think he started in the last few days. But yeah, definitely he would have been on my list. He should have been on my list.
Most everybody picked Zach Gallen for obvious reasons. George Kirby was picked by Austin. I know him and I privately talked about George Kirby recently, and I love George Kirby. I've always loved him when he was coming up with the Mariners. And of course, I'm waiting for them, Nintendo of America and the Seattle Mariners, to join forces and do some sort of George Kirby giveaway where George Kirby looks like Kirby, the Nintendo character.
Yeah, that one kind of writes itself, doesn't it?
Because George Kirby sucks the life out of the hitters, the opposing hitters.
He's been really good in the threes.
Kirby, he's always been one of my favorite characters.
I'm just a little worried about. He's really not striking out many. Granted, that entire group that came up with Seattle, Kirby, Gilbert, and then and Hancock, who still hasn't debuted. I don't think. None of them were ever like being touted for their like elite strikeout stuff, like Hunter Brown or whoever. It was all command, which he obviously 0.76 walks per 9. That leads just about everyone. That's a starting pitcher, not walking anyone. So it makes that strikeout rate a little bit more palatable just because the strikeout to walk ratio is so great.
And to finish up the starting pitchers, Melvin and I both have Framber Valdez. You know me, I love Framber Valdez. I love him so much that he ended up being the ace starting pitcher in both of my both the Baseball Life League and the Podcast League last year out of desperation. But hey, I could he saved my season from total failure last year. And I rode him all the way to the championship game and was able to win the Podcast League last year, and I was able to get to the semifinal in our league, I think, with him as my ace pitcher. So
I want to say he was on the total bases, my team for total bases last year, and he ended up being my best pitcher.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of, I don't think I have them anywhere this year, but there were a few teams that I drafted last year that I kind of waited on pitching. And it was like he was one of the 3 guys that I loaded up in the later, not too late, but like I went hitters 3 of the first 4, and then I'd pick like Valdez and Gossman and it ended up working for me really well this year or last year. But I don't think I have him anywhere this year. But he's still doing, Framber Valdez things. Although he has been unseated in the ground ball percentage race
No
for
way.
2023. He's at
No way.
59.5, which is still insane, but it's currently, from what I'm looking at, among the top 20 starting pitchers, third behind Marcus Stroman at 59.9%
Okay.
and Logan Webb at 60.4% ground ball rate.
Yeah, that's what he needs. He needs to have the league lead.
I mean,
Logan Webb
it's like
does.
his award. I mean, it's like his thing to have.
No, I'm just saying that's what that's what the guy needs. He just needs to be the league leader
Oh.
in ground ball rate, already pitching in a very pitcher friendly ballpark.
Alex Cobb is actually number one at 61.1%. So the
Yeah.
top two are both Giants. Which
That's
is funny because
crazy.
their infield defense this year has been pretty good. JD Davis has been really good at third base. They called up Casey Schmidt, the top prospect,
Yeah.
who was more of a third baseman, but has the athleticism and the arm. He unleashed like a 94 mile per hour throw from shortstop the other day. It was insane. And
Here's your top 5 ground balls since June 1st of 2022. Number 1 is Framber Valdez at 64%. Alex Cobb, you just mentioned. Logan Webb, both Giants players. Marcus Stroman, you just mentioned. And number 5 is Kyle Wright. That should make Chad happy that a Braves player who's injured again is still top 5 since last year.
You're welcome, Chad.
We could we could do all sorts of damage. Should we do infield fly ball percentage, which is basically pop-up rate? So what's your take on infield fly ball? Is it a good thing? Is it a skill that is easily measurable, or is that a fluky thing for pitchers, starting pitchers?
I think it's more of something I would look at for hitters to judge swing decision than I would pitchers. But I guess there are some pitchers that are probably better at just sneaking. Because if I'm looking at which ones this is,
I'm looking at it right now. Let me name the players. Let me name them really quick. Okay. Since 2022, June 1st of 2022, the best pop-up starting pitchers: Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Domingo Germán, Sonny Gray, Corey Kluber, Drew Smiley, Tristan McKenzie, Tyler Wells, Nestor Cortez, and Carlos Rodon. And then on the outside looking in, Joe Ryan, who we absolutely adore on this podcast. So it's basically a who's who of starting pitchers here.
Yeah, I'm looking at for just 2023, and it's Drew Smiley 1, Clayton Kershaw 2, Hunter Brown 3, Tyler Wells 4, and Luis Castillo, Jordan Lyles, Sonny Gray, Ryan Nelson. And it's funny, kind of a theme I'm seeing with Domingo Germán at 11, guys that their fastball plays up in the zone better, really good or better than you would think. Drew Smiley obviously isn't out there pumping 99 past anyone, neither is Clayton Kershaw these days. But it's one of those, if you can command it well up in the zone, get a little bit more extension, somebody like Tyler Wells, or you have a really good vertical plane approach like Hunter Brown, where that fastball sneaks up on somebody and they're just a little bit late, you get under it. So I definitely think it's something, and I probably should dig into it more, because it seems like one of those random tidbits that you could get really granular on. But I've always looked at it more for hitters than for pitchers, but that is pretty interesting.
Let's see. I can look at these statistics all night long, but we don't have that kind of time here. I just clarified. I think Jacob was talking Bryce Harper being a former catching prospect at one point in his life.
Yeah.
And a really good one too, but he was so good as a hitter that the Nationals decided, nah, you're gonna play outfield or something.
We're not risking that.
Yeah, you're too damn good, and that's a great decision by the Nationals and Bryce Harper himself to get out of that crouch and seed that next guy up to Adley Rutschman in the future, right? So, what do we have left? Oh, well, of course we have our favorite position, relief pitchers. We were supposed to go 3 starting pitchers and then 2 starting pitchers, but I kind of like this idea of like, all right, who does everybody have, and where do I find the unique names? And I think I was the only one with Evan Phillips.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was really worried about relief pitcher, just everyone picking the same 3 names, but I feel like there's more variation here than there was at any of the other, except maybe starting pitcher. But it's like I feel like there's a pretty good variance here.
And of course, tell me you have a podcast together without telling me you have a podcast together. Both Sean and I have Emmanuel Clase and Felix Bautista as our 1-2 punch. You have Joan Duran, who's another one of those guys we've been talking about since almost the very, very beginning of this podcast. Back
when he was a starting pitcher.
When he was a starting pitching prospect, along with Jordan Blazovich. Is that his name?
Bruised our Gratterall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were both twin starting pitching prospects coming up.
I always thought of Gratterall as a bullpen guy, but yeah, I guess he was traded.
He was a starter, and they were trying to make it work, and I think they had just moved him to the bullpen when they traded him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Joan Duran is an old favorite of ours. And you get to Vince and Henry. Well, Vince, I guess he caught on to that Yenier Cano train for the 2023 season, and of course Alexis Diaz and Michael King.
Yeah,
and of course
the two Yankees fans picking Michael King. Who would have guessed it?
Surprise. But they also picked Alexis Diaz, and of course Henry with Emmanuel Clase is the one difference between Dong City guys. Austin, again, same thing. Yenier Cano, Alex Diaz, and then a little bit of a homer pick, Carlos Estevez. But again, that's a picture that him and we kind of talked privately about. Austin and I are having podcasts like chats in our text messages and stuff. So he got Carlos Estevez after we on his proposed team here, and it comes on the heels after weeks of talking about him. And I always like Estevez with the Rockies. It's just a shame that they couldn't figure out that he could have been the closer up there, and now he's flourishing with the Angels at the moment. And once again, Melvin, he goes with the calendar year, and yet somehow Emmanuel Clase, Alexis Diaz, Yenier Cano. So a little
Even
bit
though
of
Cano's only pitched for 2 months this year. did not pitch last year.
Yeah, but and you know what? Guess what, Sean? I ended up cutting Cano in the podcast because he really was shitting the bed in that.
Has he really? I know he
really
started giving up some runs, but
and I might regret that later, but yeah, it doesn't look really good. And
the question I had for you, just because we both know how much we love relief pitching, if you had a fourth spot, who would it have gone to?
Yeah, I'm looking that up right now because that's not how my mind works.
I was like torn over that third spot. I knew 1-2 were Clase, Batista. I almost went Alvarado.
Yeah,
but since he's gotten hurt this year, I mean the second half of last year was insane for him, and he started off great this year, but then he got hurt. So I pumped the brakes a little bit. But there was like 3 different names that all stuck out, really 4, including Duran. But there were 3 other guys that were right there with him that I really wanted to pick. Like I almost just put 4 names in that last spot.
That's not how we do things, man. No, you got Joan Duran, who probably would have been up there if I would have had a 4th spot. Also on the list, I mean, Edwin Diaz is the number 2 relief pitcher, but obviously he's hurt. Jose Alvarado, the number 3, I almost had him. I almost picked him, but he's hurt, so that kind of affected my decision making. Number 6 and number 7, Andres Munoz and Devin Williams, who I was
Munoz and Williams. Those were the 2 that really left me with a bad taste in my mouth for not picking them.
Yeah,
I guess like Devin Williams 1.06 ERA in the last calendar year. It's the lowest on the list, not named Evan Phillips. And then Andres Munoz, who we both love, 1.53 ERA. And and I would have picked Edwin Diaz if he hadn't gotten hurt. I think that went without saying.
Yeah, if we're gonna go by health, then you can also say I guess the number 4 spot would have gone with either Devin Williams or Joan Duran for me.
Yeah, that was the one I felt really bad about not picking, just because Devin Williams is so good. I feel like nobody's talking about it. Yeah. And it's like all we could do was talk about him when he came up in 2020, the COVID year, gave up the 1 earned run. But okay, so he had a 0.33 ERA in his rookie year in 2020. I forgot that he pitched in 2019, but in his full rookie season of the COVID year, 0.33 ERA. Devin Williams so far this year in 19 innings, 0.46 ERA. He has given up 1 earned run again as well. And it's just sickening how good he is. And it's like the strikeouts are a little bit down, but like it's still insane.
Let's look at some of these strikeout rates. Edwin Diaz, 53.3% strikeout rate.
video game numbers.
No one else has it that high
No.
since June 1st of 2022. And then the rest of the list is the who's who. We just mentioned a lot of these guys already. A guy that is not on this list at number 7, Brian Abreu. Number 8, Matt Brash. Number 9, an old favorite of ours, James Karinchak. And number 10, I would have never have guessed this guy, because I don't like him one bit, but somehow he's posted a 36.6% strikeout rate. Ryan Presley.
Yeah, I mean, he was always like over 30%, especially when he came over to Houston.
Yeah, I guess it's the lack of velocity. I don't know. I just think of him as a guy who throws
breaking
like
breaking ball.
Yeah, human slider type of thing. Number 11, Liam Hendricks. Make a special note as he was able to beat cancer, so that was probably the biggest save of his life.
And then he got the win on National Cancer Survivor Day.
That's
awesome. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? So really cool.
Major League Baseball really did a good job scripting that one for us.
Yeah. We got to worry about the pitch clock though. We can't have anyone getting a violation while we give the guy a stand and go for beating cancer.
Like, I'm a fan of the pitch clock, but they really need to stop being such assholes about, excuse the language, they jerks about it.
Well, I think like with some, like, because it's all umpire discretion. I think well, that's how it's set up, is the umpire has the discretion to start it, stop it. Like, they're pretty in control of it. It's just, I feel like you have some that are worried about
getting yelled at.
Getting yelled at for doing that. And then I think you have some that are the more veteran umpires who don't really care and hate the whole system. So they're kind of being more free willy with it, I guess, in terms of stopping it for the moments like that.
To go back to a Will Smith reference, getting Big Willie Style was his 1999 album, I think.
Oh god.
Free Big Willie Style, all in it, getting jiggy with it. Na 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 na. And that's it. That's the list. Of all the teams that are listed here, I like mine the best.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I had the best choice. But I'm not done yet, Sean. It's because I like to apply the knowledge I have gained on these episodes. So while we were talking, I went ahead and started voting for my All-Star. So this is going to be the team on the spreadsheet is going to be the team I vote for. And if you don't like it, well, you go ahead and make up all these burner accounts, because I'm going to vote for this team 29 times tonight to make sure that my squad gets in there. And then tomorrow I'm going to go back to voting for my fantasy players, because they deserve some shine too. But here it is. Here's the my American League All-Star at each position, and versus the National League All-Star at each position. Nate Lowe at the for the American League, I think. Fantasy bias here, and I've always been a big fan of Nate Lowe. Looks like he's finally getting things together. I know the numbers don't look very impressive, but when you take his since June 1st of 2022.
Oh, numbers, I mean, we talked about him a couple of times, like in the off season.
Yeah,
and last year, that down the stretch in the second half last year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was the best hitter. Like, he was up there with Judge. Like, that was, the numbers bear that out in the last few months, that Nathaniel Lowe was like neck and neck with him, and you're just like, wait, Nate Lowe was that good last year?
Nah, yeah, I guess we shouldn't have been surprised. I think the surprise was that it took him that long to kind of put things together. At second base, I got Marcus Semien. I just mentioned that everybody has Marcus Semien, so I needed a National League guy. Jeff McNeil. He ended up being the best second baseman in the National League. I don't know if he's. I honestly don't know what he's doing this year, but if I'm going strictly by the numbers,
he's hitting like 280. Who is the most valuable second baseman in the National League? Firing it up here. Tyro Estrada currently leads. He's ahead of Luis Arias. But those are number 1, number 2, Nico Horner 3, Nolan Gorman 4, Ha-Sung Kim number 5.
And that list sucks. I'd rather just go with Jeff McNeil. Your starting second baseman for Team America. I wanted to vote for Yandy Diaz here, but it wouldn't let me. So,
it wouldn't, as he's probably played too much like first base.
Yeah, so I'll just pick his teammate Isaac Paredes as a representative. Plus, Team Mexico. Austin Riley is my third baseman at National League. Bo Bichette, shortstop for the AL. Dansby Swanson was I know we just, I feel like we kind of were dissing him at the beginning of the show, but solid guy. I don't trust him, but you know what?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like he proved me wrong last year.
He's
like,
producing, yeah.
Yeah, and then this year, once again, it's like the offense is good. I mean, 124 WRC plus is very good for him. but it's like I don't expect it to stay there. I don't think anybody does.
At catcher, Adley Rushman in the American League, Sean Murphy. He good to see him. I've always liked Sean Murphy, but man, there was some years in Oakland where he was just putrid, just rancid, and members are rancid.
Well, the thing with Murphy was his, if you ever looked at his splits when he was with the Oakland A's, at home versus the road, it was like 150 or like 160 point OPS difference. Like he was like two totally different hitters.
Yeah, I could see that, but I mean, I had him a couple years ago, and it didn't matter where he was playing. He just wasn't hitting at all, and I'm glad that he got out of that funk, because this is what I always envisioned out of him.
Now this is pod racing.
I'm sorry, what?
Now this is pod racing. It's from that's old prequel Star Wars joke.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have known. Outfield: Yordan Alvarez, Aaron Judge, Julio Rodriguez in the American League. In the National League, Mookie Betts, Brandon Nimmo, and Juan Soto. Because what kind of all-star team
Brandon Nimmo
without Juan Soto? I meant to say, but yeah, Nimmo. Actually, I always thrash him because he doesn't have the counting stat production. You cannot argue with the rate stats. They're borderline video numbers as part
of it. And it's really funny that right now, like compared to like his last 2 years, or really 3 years, bordering on 4, but it's the on base has come down like 20-ish, 25 points, but the batting average has gone up about 30 points, and then the defense has just improved shockingly while playing solely center field. Go figure. And he's slowly and very quietly become, to the rest of baseball, one of the best outfielders, and I've been on that train for about 6 years now. So hop aboard, people.
And then I was gonna pick Paul Goldschmidt, but again, I'm not allowed to write in whoever I want here, unfortunately, which is really stupid by Major League.
Really stupid.
But I guess it's easier to tally the votes. So I'm just gonna go with Daniel Vogelbach to piss off all the Mets fans. No, I'm joking. Let's go with JD Martinez so I can be in solidarity with Vince. No, I'm joking. It's Bryce Harper. Come on. And there it is. I think it asked for my personal information, so I'm going to stop sharing. And we
also, what was that whole voting setup where you picked catcher after the rest of the infield? That was really, I've never seen it organized that way, where catcher was like after the infield.
What are you talking about?
When you were scrolling through it, showing all of your picks, it had of the infield and then catcher. That just seems out of sorts.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. I don't know what that was all about. So that's weird. At any rate, we're done. That's wow. That episode flew by. I thought it was going to be another 90-minute marathon. I feel empty, and now we're going every other week. So I feel like, damn, that's it. That's all we have for you guys. But since we have the time, I want to just brag a little bit. Mardi Gras League. I just found out that the automated system ranked my team as the #1 team in the league. I just beat one of the higher scoring teams last week with like 3 relief pitchers and maybe 4 or 5 starting pitching schedule starts. So I'm happy about that, as Aaron Judge and Logan Allen Taylor carried my rotation. So I'm happy about that. I have the best record in the podcast league as of right now. I'm waiting for Austin, if he hasn't done it already, to release his roto rankings to see if the win-loss record matches the roto production. So I'm on pins and needles. I always look forward to that report. So Austin, he's like a machine, bro. He's like a freaking machine. He's just, if I were to do that, I'm like, oh, I got to go through all that. My ADHD is acting up again. Actually, I don't know if I have ADHD, but I can just, because I used to do that all the time, and it's just dreadful. And then unfortunately, the Baseball Life League, I was just telling my wife, I got off to 11-1 start, and then since we're in the second round of the second leg of the round of the quadruple round robin, so I was 11-1, and now I am 12-7. So that doesn't sound right, but
and I've won 5 in a row.
You won 5 in a row, and
yes, I was.
All of a sudden,
brings me to 13-6. So I was like hovering right at 500 for the first month and a half.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And I'm just boom through to the roof.
Yeah, so I gotta figure out what the hell's wrong with my team. I don't know what it is. It's the same players. I mean, maybe it's just regression, and that's it. And At least I could beat the crappy team still. I beat James's team. Yeah, I said it, crappy team. And I beat the Jets team, who I'm going to see later this month when we do the wrestling shows that we're going to watch. But yeah, I got to figure out what the hell's wrong with that team because I cannot afford. But you know what it is, Sean? This is what I get. This is what I get for going against what I normally do, chasing those stolen bases, chasing those singles, those slappy hitters,
Yeah.
because I feel like I have too many power hitters. And now I have nothing. I have no average. I got no on base percentage. I got no power.
I
and
got
I'm still,
nothing here.
I'm trying to limit my strikeouts. I'm still striking out a lot. So I don't know. And that's with a team with Rafael Devers, Juan Soto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I just mentioned the first two names, right? Soto and Devers, which proves my theory once again. You cannot trust left-handed hitters. I should have known better, but I got suckered into believing in those two bumps right there.
I did not realize Faisal Iglesias was already up to 7 saves. You have me looking at my team, and I'm trying to figure out like what's gone right in the last couple of weeks. But it's like the pitching, I feel like I'm starting to figure it out. Dylan Cease and Alek Manoah still suck. I did not start Alek Manoah today, and praise be to God because he went a third of an inning and gave up 6 earned runs.
Oh geez, yeah, that was pretty.
ERA's up to 6. Like even though I think the last few starts I haven't been starting them, and the likes of Bibby have helped. Mitch Keller's still doing Mitch Keller things.
Yeah.
I had Bobby Miller and Yuri Perez. They were my 2 prospects coming into the year. They've both made it to the big leagues. Bobby Miller's been really good through his first 3 starts. Yuri Perez through 5 starts, 2.2 ERA. So maybe we're getting saved by the rooks. Really, yeah. I have, especially because I picked up Matt McLean. Matt McLean's been awesome for me at second base. That was a position of I was about to lose my mind at second base.
Yeah, this is why we have those prospect shows, right? Because sometimes the veterans on major league rosters, they're not helpful. So you gotta look at some of the younger players who have the upside, but not the experience, and figure out where you can get help. And we'll be doing more of that in the near future. I'm pretty sure of it. And then last thing I wanted to ask you about is we're about to go into the dog days of summer, right? And basically this is the point of year where you forget about the drafted players that you picked. I'm not giving up 100 green, but I'm probably at a point where I've given up on everybody else who has not performed up to speed as of right now. You can forget about the projections from earlier this year because you could throw them out the window. So in a short summary, what do you do to evaluate your team and evaluate players on waiver wire to help you push through the second half of the season?
I don't know, because I've come pretty close with Manoah just to cutting bait, but it's one of those things where he was just so good last year. He was one of my keepers.
Yeah.
And you kind of I have this idea in my head that it's like, okay, if he's this bad now, if he figures it out and he ends the year even just around like a 4 ERA, like what he has to pitch to get to a 4 ERA is really valuable because one, I've already started him for like 3/4 of all these terrible starts. Maybe I just hold on to him, don't start him until he figures it out, and then put him back in and try and catch the hot part of it. But yeah, he's one guy I've come really close to just cutting bait with. But looking at the splits this year, he's just been terrible at home. He has over 8.5 ERA at home, 27 earned runs and 7 starts. And on the road, it's not great, but it's serviceable. 6 starts, 4.2 ERA. Okay, I can live with that. But at home, he's just getting killed. Damn.
So that was Alek Manoah still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we expect, and more or less from Kevin Gossman. and we get it from Alek Manoah, who was supposed to be like the
ground ball guy.
Yeah. Well, no, just the bedrock of the Blue Jays rotation for years to come. And it turns out that this is why you pay the free agent pitchers all that money, because you never know what these prospect players, right? So
it's like he gave up 16 home runs all of last year and 31 starts, nearly 200 innings. And 58 innings, he's given up 11 already. It's just
Yeah.
like what, and as many walks as strikeouts, 42 walks, 48 strikeouts. Just I I don't know what to do
Yeah. So
except just have him take up a roster spot and not start him.
yeah, it's kind of the same thing I'm going through with Hunter Green. I refuse to give up on him. I let him go once, and I don't want to let him go again in the Mardi Gras League. And I think I also have him in the podcast league, and again, same thing. Well, the podcast league, my pitching is so ridiculous. I actually can withstand the struggles of a Hunter Green, and hopefully he gets it figured out in the second half. But in the Mardi Gras League, where the roster sizes are smaller, he is really tempering my patience here. But good news, I'm getting both Tristan McKenzie and Tyler Glass now back, so I'm very excited about that. I finally have my rotation somewhat as healthy as it's gonna get. So now it's like I got it's like I just made 2 giant trades, and all I did was give up nothing, not
Yeah,
even draft picks. So I'm really happy with that.
I just
Hopefully
came within about
Glass,
5 seconds of dropping Alec Manoa, but I chose to drop Shea Langoliers instead.
yeah, because like I said, this is the time of year where
I was hovering over the button while you were
This is-
talking. I was hovering over it, finger twitching.
Is this for the Baseball Life League?
Yeah.
All right, so just go ahead. I'll let you drop them then.
No, I didn't.
Go
I
ahead.
dropped Shea Langoliers. That's okay.
No, but you could drop Manoa too. Get yourself whatever pitchers out there. I don't know what's
No,
out there.
he can enjoy the view from the bench. Granted,
Yeah.
at this point, like if he gets demoted, like do I still hold on to him?
You have a minor league slot, don't you? Oh no,
No, he's not finally eligible.
Oh, see, this is why we have those restrictions, guys. Everybody's mad at me. Why do we have to have these restrictions? Because of situations like this. But no, man, this is the time of year. This has to be. I mean, this is the time of year where you have to make some big boy decisions. And yeah, it sucks, but you know, what the thing is when you do a podcast like this, Sean, you realize that there's so many good players still available. Well, I'm the same guy who complains about the lack of depth in some of these waiver wires, but every once in a while, there's like that one guy that just kind of gives you a twinkle in your eye, like, oh, he's still available. Like,
yeah, like
Edward
JP
Cabrera.
Sears, like JP Sears, who I just picked up.
Yeah, he's always available. But Edward
I think
Cabrera was
I think I dropped Edward Cabrera at some point.
yeah, he was available in which league? The Mardi Gras League, and he was just sitting there like in the Mardi Gras League. Again, it's shorter rosters, so it's a much more plentiful waiver wire. And I'm looking at Edward Cabrera, like I'm looking at the last 4 or 5 starts, and I'm thinking to myself, he just figured something out. Is he turning into what I thought Hunter Green was going to turn into this year? So I just swooped him up, and I think he gets 2 starts next week. So I'm going to take full advantage of that. And that is the magic and beauty of fantasy baseball when you do it right. Anyway, last words from you, Sean. Hurry up.
Oh, that's it.
I'm sorry. Don't hurry up.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Well, no, that was no. I'll hurry up. But you mentioned Edward Cabrera. I just picked up JP Sears, who in the month of May, in the month of May, 33 innings, 2.94 ERA, and he was a guy. He was pretty not like a top 100 guy, but he was having really good success in the Yankee system last year before the trade. We liked him and going into a big ballpark like that. So, and I mean, I like him just because it's the motion. He's got the plus changeup. Anytime a pitching prospect comes up that already has like a well-developed changeup, I got a soft spot for it.
Anyway, I think even though it's a weird episode, we didn't talk about any like sneaky picks, any prospects, but I think we did a good job.
Yeah. Speaking of, I mean, if you want one, just debuted tonight, went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit. Andrew Abbott.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was getting there, but 6 innings, 6 innings, 1 hit, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. And I believe we did mention him on a previous show earlier this year. So
there you go. No, so there you go. There's your prospect. There's your pick. Well, if you don't have Andrew Abbott now, I think you might be too late.
Andrew just added him today at 8:15 this morning before his start. I got him in several of my multiple dynasty shares of him going back to last year.
Well, there you have it. Any last words from me? No, let's get going.
Okay.
That is Sean over there. Thank you so much for rescheduling on a Monday night. Appreciate it. I am Felipe. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Adios.